What's going on, Star Wars fam? It's bros, Chris Ryons, and welcome to the first episode of Brolocron, the Star Wars lore podcast. And I'm here with two of many co-hosts that we have for the show. I want to introduce them right now. Tommy Puig, welcome back to Bro Axiom, bro. And Darth Choco, welcome to Bro Axiom, my friend.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Y'all do awesome stuff, so I'm excited.
So before we get into the subjects for tonight, why don't we have you guys just introduce yourselves and talk about sort of what you do, what you love about Star Wars, and what your hopes for this show are. Tommy, why don't you go first as a returning member?
What I love about Star Wars is, well, everything. Specifically the ability
Holiday
to,
special.
I mean, I have a love for that in a certain aspect. Yeah, I just the way I see it is, I love all of Star Wars, just some parts more than others. That's it. I don't hate any of it. I just hate parts of the fandom. That's it.
Facts.
Parts of the fandom, parts. As to what parts, you'll find out. What I love the most about Star Wars is the ability to escape reality for that time being. Let's say for this in the movie, we can, for that 2.5 hours where we escape reality, we're in a galaxy far, far away. And I love that. Unfortunately, a lot of people they've lost the ability to do that. They lost the ability to just escape reality. They bring reality with it. And, you know, that's of course, we're seeing a lot of heavy discourse back and forth in the fandom because they just don't have that ability anymore. They're not going into the theater or watching the TV shows. Just let their inner child come out and enjoy it. The inner child is locked up. So my hopes for this podcast is just discussing. Well, obviously we're going to be discussing Legends, but we're also going to be discussing canon and doing, you know, comparisons between the two. Not in a judgmental way, but just
right.
Just kind of seeing Legends for what it is and what we can enjoy or what we do enjoy about it, and hopefully it'll bring some more Legends fans into the fold, but in a positive light. Because I know that as far as Legends fans go, they're viewed in a very negative light. I've experienced this firsthand where somebody will ask like, "Oh, who's your favorite character?" And I say Revan, and they're like, "Oh, you're one of those." I'm like, "What do you mean? One of those? What?"
I mean, I've been one of those people, so my bad.
One of those. I'm like, what do you mean? And then like it eventually boils down to like a lot of Legends fans are just viewed as toxic and they hate the Disney era, they hate the sequels, and they hate Kathleen Kennedy. That's not me. I'm actually enjoying the Disney version of Star Wars. Like, there's a lot of gold that's coming out. You know, little gold nuggets here and there that are coming from it. Yeah. Do I like it more than like the originals with the sequels? Depends on what parts we're talking about. Like it's not as a whole. I'm judging it as a whole. There's certain parts that I love, certain parts that I don't love as much, but I'm still enjoying it and I'm still finding ways to enjoy it. I'm not the type of person that will take one thing and just let it ruin the entire thing. You know, they see one thing, they're just like, oh well, that's not my Luke Skywalker, and it just destroys their perception of the entire sequel trilogy. I don't do that, and I actually like this version of Luke, so I have a good argument for it. We'll get to that.
Yeah. Choco, how about you, bro?
Yeah, so I'm Choco. This is Suki. If you're watching the video, sometimes she just wants attention. Anyways, yeah, massive Star Wars fan forever. Love both canon and Legends. Originally I had a goal to read everything in Legends. It's pretty ambitious. I'm a little less than halfway there, I want to think. I'm like 150 now. I don't know. But I think that's close to there. Anyways, yeah, I've always loved Star Wars. I've always been a big fan, and I just want to, the thing I'm excited about here is being able to talking about Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many times where I feel like we've deviated from talking about the content, and it's and for obvious reasons, sometimes things get difficult. My favorite Star Wars character of all time is Jaina Solo, but that's one of the things I'm super excited to talk about here is just Legends in general, because massive Legends fans, I start talking about it and the crap that comes back to me isn't like, oh, that's really good, that's really cool, I want to find out more. It's, well, why didn't they do it? And like, all right, never mind.
It's weird because it gets bad on both sides as far as canon and Legends. I mean, like when the acquisition happened, there are fans who were like, brought up on the EU, where for a while, and this has made me resistant to it, like even more so than I was before, was that they kind of weaponized Legends and in EU and whatnot, like against whatever was coming out that was new, and thinking it was better. And I have my thoughts on Legends and EU and stuff like that. Like when they said they were essentially wiping that all clean so that they could just go with the movies, Clone Wars, and I think that was it, right? When it started, I was like, good, Chewie's alive. So, but yeah, because to me, like for a while, like EU lost. To me, it became more. It's not the sci fantasy. It became like, to me, it looked like hard sci-fi for a bit, and that kind of like threw me off, and I wasn't a fan. And dropping the moon on Chewie, I was.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, that's tough. I loved it because there was a world of just whatever the hell could fly. Like at one point, there's a place with that'll be a funnier thing to get your reaction later on when we get to that section. But thing is, I love Legends, I love canon. I think it's weird to choose. It's like saying, I love dogs, I also like cats. I don't have to hate one because I like the other.
Right.
Exactly.
That's super weird.
Yeah.
I like the MCU, but I also think Logan is one of the best comic book movies ever made.
Yes.
And it's not in the same continuity, and that's okay. Something not being canon does not mean it's not valuable, doesn't mean it's not good, doesn't mean you shouldn't read it, doesn't mean it's not worth talking about. So I'm happy to jump into that. But also on the canon side, man, we've been getting some solid gold nuggets over there as well. Like overall, I think I prefer canon nowadays. I feel like Legends has some higher highs, but canon is hitting and it's always on base. You know what I mean? Like it's been solid through and through, and especially with the High Republic, with the comics that just dropped, was like, woo, some spicy stuff. So
yeah,
I'm happy.
I think it's interesting that I'm kind of I'm a little behind on the High Republic. I haven't been keeping up with the comics, and I think I'm at least maybe 40 comics behind. That's it. Yeah.
Come on.
That's a lot.
You didn't miss much. Not at all.
But
I mean, Chris's other co-hosts haven't read anything for years. So
that's fired.
I don't know about for years. I would say I don't know, ever.
Yeah.
Maybe ever.
I was trying to give him benefit of the doubt.
But from what I've been reading, it's been like solid story writing and solid, just like the writing isn't like that writing team. They're doing a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Especially making it like so it's like understandable even for the most casual of Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
Like there's been so many times where I've not talked to somebody directly, but seen comments where people are commenting about the latest High Republic book that they read. They're like, I have no idea what's going on, but the way they wrote it, it's like I can see where it's going and see what's happening and how it connects. That's awesome. Like that doesn't happen because you can't really jump into like a new Jedi Order book and be like, oh yeah, this is cool, but I don't know what's going on. Like, how this connects and who are the Yuuzhan Vong or who are these lizards or whatever. That's happened so many times, and I know how you feel about the Vong.
It feels like it's the character work. I feel like canon Star Wars has a greater focus on the individual characters and their journeys. And then in the past, we had more focus on the events that were taking place. So I can't say one is better than the other, but when you focus on the characters, you could put them in the middle of a battle scene and I'll cry. You could put them in Dex's diner drinking Jawa juice and it's just as entertaining for me. Also, Dex is just one of my favorite characters anyway. So anytime I can shine light on that beautiful man, I'll do it.
Yeah.
You've never seen Obi-Wan happier than when he saw Dex.
It is so true. Yo, that is so true.
That man did not even look at Satine like that. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
That is so true. So all this talk about the High Republic that we were just doing, let's get into the next subject, which is about the High Republic era. And is the High Republic era to blame for the way that the Jedi are shown in the prequels? And that's not like like, oh, George Lucas messed up the Jedi. That's not even what I'm saying. What we're seeing in this third phase of the High Republic is the Jedi Order is now, they're streamlining everything, whereas they've got this assembly line of Padawans into Jedi Knights to get them out there so they can battle the Nihil and help these different planets and people who are hurt by the Nihil and hopefully try to get into the occlusion zone. We're seeing that their garb, their Jedi tunics and the robes and their lightsabers, everything is being streamlined, and they're very less elegant. The lightsabers are now pretty much what we know of what a lightsaber to be from the prequels, from the original trilogy and on. And I'm wondering if the way that we see the Jedi in the prequels, where it's like they're judging people by the midi-chlorian count, because no one has said midi-chlorians at all, I think, in the High Republic. How are they finding the Force sensitives? How does did the all these altercations with the Nihil, because the Nihil really had the Jedi's number for it, but they really had them on their heels. Did this in a way influence how we see the Jedi in the prequels with because I don't know if you got they were, to me, a bit there's an arrogance there, but there is a bit of maybe a closed-mindedness and less, talking about, I see the Force as music or things like that, like the way
it's kind of like a
way Ivar Christie. Yeah. So what are you guys' thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, personally, technically it's that the Nihil are to blame for it largely, but no, it's so cool that the High Republic has shown us what they were. We're showing the height of the Jedi, because we haven't gotten to see that. Yeah. The closest we got to see that would be in episode 1, right? Because that's before this conflict started.
Yeah.
But as we, George Lucas famously said the reason for the prequels is he wanted to show you how a good person turns evil and how a democracy turns into a dictatorship. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, the Jedi had to become too closely entangled with the Republic. And so you have to say, how did they go from the guardians of peace and justice throughout the galaxy into this role? And the High Republic has done a fantastic job, in my opinion, of showing you the natural progression of all of these things, where X happens, you respond with Y, and then this happens, you respond with this. And by the end of all those responses, where we are in, with the Shadow of Starlight is because of this massive occlusion zone and the death of all these people in the galaxy, the Nihil are a big threat, and they're doing hit and run attacks on Jedi outposts and all this stuff. Like, they're actively seeking out Jedi for their experiments and to feed their pets. It's gnarly.
Yeah.
So obviously you want any Jedi, you want every Jedi to be prepared to deal with those situations. So now that's like, all right, let's go back Let's figure out the curriculum. We need to make sure, you know, we get lightsabers in their hands as soon as possible so that they can defend. Like it's not a bad thing that they're saying, and the reason makes sense. But you see how this mentality shift gets them closer to where the Clone Wars is going to shift them further.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense, Palpatine studying history and seeing, okay, these things force them over here. All I need to do is a little push to get them from here to there. And I've been loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for the High Jedi, I kind of see them as this is what happens when an organization like the Jedi Order, they live in a time of peace where obviously there's not that much for them to do. They can focus more on themselves, probably in a selfish manner, because as you can see, they have more of a fancy garb and fancy lightsabers. They can focus more on making themselves look more elegant and things like that. So I guess you could perceive it as a selfish thing that they're doing, or they had been doing. And now that they're in a time of war and they have to focus less on things like that don't matter, and they have to focus more on preparing themselves, and not only defending themselves but defending the galaxy. So that requires them to not necessarily cut corners, but put their focuses and intention on where it actually matters, which is studies of the Force, constructing the lightsabers in a timely manner, training their younglings and their Padawans in a timely manner, and having them focus on things that actually matter in the Force. Because, you know, how your robes look doesn't ultimately matter. How fancy your lightsaber is ultimately does not matter, and it's not going to save you in a fight. And it's not going to be a teaching principle, nor should it be a teaching principle when it comes to being a Jedi. That's not going to save you, and that's not going to save the galaxy. So I could see why, you know, we're starting to see more of what the Jedi look like in the prequels, because ultimately that's the way it should be. Like, it should be more of a humble basics. And I can kind of compare this to in Legends, the Army of Light, which is during the time of Darth Bane, because around that time they were at war with the Sith, which is the Brotherhood of Darkness. And for the Jedi, they if you had a pulse, they recruited you. That's how desperate they were. Like if you had like even the slightest bit of Force sensitivity, they're like, here's a stick, you're gonna fight with us. And that's basically the the ultimate qualifier right there, is if you could feel the Force in any way. And which isn't good, because we've seen especially in the Darth Bane book, Darth Xana's companions, it kind of got to their head, and there wasn't any sort of teaching moments that they were given in order to place their thoughts correctly, because like they thought, oh, this Jedi wants me to join the Jedi Order, I'm a Jedi, and it caught to their heads, and they got killed ultimately, because they were just they were letting these ideas of grandeur get to their head. So that's like the extreme of it. I'd say is on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, but that kind of leads me to a question though. Like, what do you think the Jedi's role should be? What do you think they should be doing?
I guess
that's both for both of you guys.
Gotcha.
For me, well, that would kind of go more into the next subject.
Okay, well, so I guess what I'm kind of getting at is I feel like the Jedi have the Superman problem. Like, there's a lot of things that we want the Jedi to take care of in the galaxy, but knowing, you know, we don't want them to become politically affiliated, right? And some of the things we want them to take care of would require a lot of politics. So like Superman lives in a world where, yeah, he could eliminate all crime and conflict and stuff, but and like
that's how you get the Justice Lords.
that's exactly it. And so so for me, I I didn't look at it of this is the way they should have been. I look at it as like, it makes me sad because like, you know, the Force is, I mean, ultimately their job is just to protect the balance of the Force, and so that does come, you know, most paramount. But these people being Force sensitive could help advance and save dying people by like they had Jedi people in agriculture, you know, learning how to just grow crops and stuff better, and those people could save the galaxy by teaching people that. You know, you have scholars, you have, you know, historians, and that's what makes them good diplomats, because that's what their focus is on. And so it's like the end of the era is losing these people of like, well, you know, Ram Jamaram, he's just a mechanic. He's just like, I just want to build stuff, you know? And that's super cool. But they're like, yeah, you could build stuff. It's not going to save you from the Nameless, though. So
right. It's like everyone is pushed out of the, you know, for lack of a better term, everyone is being pushed out of their comfort zone. You know, like since you know the Drengir and the Nihil have come in, and like, you know, it's showing, like these stories are showing, like, you know, what these Jedi are made of. Then I think of things like let's take Vernestra Rowe, for example. You know, bright future ahead of her, you know, like this young master who, you know, who's like, what is she? I forgot her age. 16?
Yeah, like she's like the youngest master.
Youngest master. Anakin would be so pissed. But and then when you look at, like, you know, some of the shots that we saw from the Acolyte, and you see her character in the Acolyte,
she's seen some things.
She has seen a few things, and she just looks, not to say disheveled, but she looks broken. And it's just, it's so unfortunate for this order and what they've gone through. And in a way, they did pick themselves back up, of course, as we've seen the prequels, but like they've been picked back up, but there is this added, like almost like this added armor. There's like a moat around them now, or something like how do you guys feel about that? Like, do you sort of see that kind of thing with this prequel era, Clone Wars era Jedi?
It's like someone who's been was in a bad relationship before, and they let that alter what they do in the future. You know, like they've been hurt.
Yeah,
they're guarded.
Yeah.
I think it's well, I mean, for me, like, it kind of makes me hyped for the Acolyte coming up, because we're gonna see ultimately what happens from all these events, and I wouldn't say the Jedi are complacent, but maybe they were close to being that at one point, and now that because of the Nihil, they're kind of being pushed to an extreme.
Yeah, and
we're kind of seeing what happens to the Jedi when they're being pushed to the brink, and so on and so forth. You know, it just, the Acolyte makes me look forward to seeing what happens to these individual Jedi, or in particular, whichever one, or that one that becomes the Acolyte. I forgot her name. Or at least it's
Amandla.
Yeah,
the actress.
The actress. Yeah. So it's because I mean, I think they revealed what the story or the premise is supposed to be, is that ultimately
you've been looking at those leaks, huh?
Some of those links.
I seen them too.
It sounds dope. I'm not gonna lie. You know, so I mean, obviously, when you think Acolyte, you think Sith automatically, because that's typically what Sith students are called, are Acolytes. So something's gonna happen. Something's gonna happen where she feels like it's necessary for the Sith to exist, and we're gonna see what happens from there. So, well, obviously, it's gonna have something to do with how the Jedi went about things or didn't go about things, and that's just gonna be an interesting perspective to see.
Yeah. Do you guys think we're gonna see that we're gonna find out that the Sith were partially responsible for what the Nihil and stuff are doing? like at the very end?
I want to say yeah, because what's the leader of the now? I forget his name.
Markion.
Markion Ro. Like he has an ancestry that goes back thousands of years, and it's connected to some mysterious. Isn't it? They're like mysterious.
There was a Path of the Open Hand.
Yeah,
that they were a part of.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any like dark side of Sith connections, but maybe like it's like it to me. There's a possibility because I mean, like for you know this group. I mean, yeah, just brilliant, but this group of brilliant, brutal, ruthless non-Force users who have, you know, taken the Jedi to the brink. You know, they destroyed, you know, Starlight Beacon, and they've got the Jedi on their heels the entire run. There's the dark. I mean, yes, the dark side is flowing throughout this entire, you know, this entire book, this entire series. But I wonder if there is some dark sider that is, you know,
like,
maybe behind the scenes or something like that.
Like maybe not maybe a Sith teaching Markion Ro or his family or his lineage the dark side, but maybe him giving the tools to combat the Jedi. Because, you know, on their family's path, obviously they're going to eventually come to a head against the Jedi. They could probably see his path being that direction and give him what he needs to combat them. Because I could see a Sith being like, you know what, we're going to be inactive for this period of time. We're going to need somebody to soften them up, put the Jedi in check while we're out.
Yeah.
I mean, I could see a world where did you guys watch Loki season 2?
Yeah.
All right. So you know how they went back in time and then gave Victor Timely the book?
Yeah.
Like I can see a situation like that where somewhere in his ancestry they gave him like, okay, these things are the nameless. You know, like there's because these things are also things like the Sith couldn't wield the nameless. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would have the same problems.
So you can.
So they could maybe somewhere along the way one of their ancestors found a Sith tomb and read all the stuff in there or something like that. Because one thing that's been super interesting of a concept, I feel like I've been saying interesting a lot, but one of the concepts was how his species, you can see like other people from the species who have been dead or whatever. I don't know if you have run into that yet, but like you can communicate kind of like with the dead within your lineage. And I wonder if, you know, you could have that type of situation where someone has those secrets and has been spreading them, and for the sole purpose of causing chaos for the Jedi. Well, I mean, I'm mostly curious how you felt with the reveal in High Republic Adventures.
Oh, for Lula?
Yeah.
So yeah, Starlight Beacon crashed. She lost her memory, and you know, not join the Nihil, but she just, you know, found a new identity for herself in Nihil garb, specifically Crix's Nihil garb, and you know, did her thing across the galaxy. Man, that was a trying year for like everyone. Like Bell, he definitely aged during that whole thing. Like Bell, whew, that poor kid.
He looks like 6 years older.
He does. And like, I remember reading the comment like 6 months later, I'm like, he looks like he's 40. Like that can't be the case. Like he's just hard times.
It's like when Obama came out of office, and you're like,
like you were just like 41 with you know, just nothing but black hair. What happened? But yeah, that's the stress. That's what happens when Barry's not around. But yeah, you know, everyone's trials and tribulations, like it said, and this is the one thing that damage the order and set them on the path to where they are. Now, when I say this, I'm not saying that the prequel era Jedi like oh, it's just terrible. Yeah, they got duped and look what happened. But like this does like inform just the stance of the Jedi and how I guess easy it is to corrupt them, even when they don't think they're being corrupted, with having to go to war and being soldiers and not doing the things like the agriculture and things like that. Like that's one thing I was wondering about. Like once the Order during the High Republic era decided to slim down the robes and the lightsabers, did that happen for the teachings as well? Was the same amount of time put out for the teachings, or did they get them more battle ready with their teachings going forward for younglings and Padawans? Like I wonder if that was the case. I don't know if that's something that they delved into, or if that's something that I missed, going through the audiobooks and the comics. But like it's just like every time I read one of these things for the High Republic, I keep thinking forward to the prequels, and I'm just like, yeah, I see why this happened, why they're like this, just connecting those dots.
There's a book. It's Stories of Light and Dark. No, not sorry. That's a Clone Wars book. There's one that's about the Jedi and Sith, and I can't think of the name, but there's a short story in there, and it's not High Republic. It's Barriss Offee, and it's her being inside of inside the Jedi Temple right before she goes off on the mission to meet where she meets Ahsoka for the first time. But she talks about her time because she was in the arena on Geonosis when all that crap was going off. She got knighted, at that point, but she's like, I'm just a doctor. Like all I want to do is heal people. That's the only thing I want to do. I'm not meant to fight. I don't think we should be fighting and all this stuff. And even, right before going off, her master is telling her, no. All you're doing is you're helping us find the location. I'm just having you memorize the direction so you can lead us there. But it feels, I feel the connection between these stories and like that one where, it's a slow change of focus, and what all the Jedi around her are saying, and she's watching these people around her being broken, and she's trying to heal these people, knowing that even once I heal their bodies, their wounds, their heart, their spirituality stuff is going to be forever altered. And all of them are thinking the same thing. Yeah, what we're doing is not ideal, but if we can do it hard enough and fast enough, we'll fix the problem and we can go back. That's all we have to do. Hit it hard enough and fast enough, and Palpatine prolonged the war so that would get him. And it feels like a solid bridge through that arc.
And that's like, there's one of the things why I can't wait to see how this High Republic comes to a close, how this High Republic story arc comes to a close. I guess, through the books and with the Acolyte, to really inform, what comes next. I'm very excited to see how it's going to happen. I was hoping for at least, and I'll just say this as just, I was like, with the High Republic, I'm like, all right, they're at the height of their, of what they are, and this is cool. And I'm like, oh, cool, we're going to get to see the Jedi, in their prime, in their heyday, and, maybe have a good day. Not always, at war.
That was
that
week
kind of
one.
stuff. Like, barely, yeah. It was like the first 7 pages of Light of the Jedi, and then everything just everything just flew right down the toilet. I think I was saying this on Twitter. The only time they had a good time was that Bake Off. I think Daniel Jose Oda wrote that one. Yeah. I was like, yeah, that was the last time people were smiling. Those poor Jedi. Like they,
Okay,
and I'm trying to wonder who had it worse. Yeah, the Jedi Order was brought to a close with the Clone Wars, but who had it worse? The High Republic Jedi or the prequel era Clone Wars era Jedi?
That's a tough one.
I mean, my thought comes a little like outside of the story and into the fandom, because like I feel like the prequel Jedi get a lot of hate, and I feel like a lot of it is not truly deserved. Yes, they absolutely failed, you know, but they get. It feels like in a lot of cases, Anakin gets a pass because he was manipulated by Palpatine, but the Jedi don't, even though they were also being manipulated by Palpatine for far, far longer and more intensely.
Yeah.
I honestly gotta say the prequel Jedi had it worse because, I mean, one of my favorite Legends books is Plagueis, and one of the things that pops up in that book often is how do you make a Jedi trap? You know, like when you make a solid Jedi trap, they're in it. There's no way out of it, and they have no idea. And that's as soon as the blockade on Naboo, the Jedi were screwed at that moment. Sorry about that.
I think, I agree. Additionally, the reason why I'd say the prequel era is because, come Order 66, obviously the Jedi portrayed, majority of them were killed, and then they were removed from their home, which was home for them for thousands of years. So they're on the run. So they have no home. They're being hunted. And they have to live in seclusion and just continue hiding. Like, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, and and hearing you guys say it, I'm going to
Poor Eth Koth.
Ooh, man,
he just changed his life and had a kid.
Oh, that poor bastard. He
went out. He became a reverend.
Man, that whole it made him find God. That's funny. That's funny.
They come up running up in the door, and he's like, "Come on, man!
I was just trying to have dinner with my family. What are we doing?
That's not me no more."
Yeah, well, man, I haven't force lifted anything in years. But I'm gonna have to agree with it more. Like, I think the High Republic era is like maybe a crisis of. Maybe a crisis of faith, like, them really having to see like what they're made of, and maybe that's the trial for the High Republic era Jedi, and then the poor Jedi from the prequel era and they were just defeated, and they were just full on defeated. And now we're going to move on to this segment called Legend School. Now, this is where all the other keepers of the Brolocron are going to school me on storylines and lore from the expanded universe and legends, because my knowledge of legends and all that is slim. I know about Nomi Sunrider. I know about Eula Keldroma, K. Keldroma. I know about Exar Kun, Master Thon. Anything from the Dark Horse, like Tales of the Jedi, I know. Of course,
what'd you call XR? No, I'm just
like, whoa, yeah. That it took me a couple with that name. Yeah. My brother and I used to make fun of that all the time. The first double-bladed lightsaber.
I've always been wondering, like, why some people will say "kun" instead.
Yeah.
I'm just like.
Yeah, it's Kun. It's Kun.
It is. It's
It's not Kun. I mean, but it's Kun.
Either way, I know what you
mean. Just don't put the stank on it.
Stank on it. Yeah. You gotta calm down with that name, y'all. It's like I'm like, it's Schwarzenegger. It's Schwarzenegger. You got to, please. Yeah, my knowledge of the EU and Legends is limited. I just wasn't that huge into it, and I know it wasn't a George Lucas made thing, so I was like, except for Age of the Empire, I read that trilogy. Truce of Bakura, the Courtship of Princess Leia, and then I was like, yeah, okay. But I do remember, like, I'd read a lot of the comics, the Tales of the Jedi comics and stuff. Cade Skywalker stuff from the Legacy books.
Yep.
The Knights of the Old Republic. I played the
that
games.
was too edgy for me.
What the
Cade was just too edgy for me.
he was
the
good.
drug using Skywalker.
He was a little junkie Skywalker. But yeah, I read those and like what I know of some instances and races. I was like, this is put the Vong in Star Trek. That's where they should be. Mm-hmm. That's just me. But so we're going to be talking about the Dawn of the Jedi, or they're going to, Choco and Tommy are going to be talking about the Dawn of the Jedi. They're going to school me on it, and hopefully I learn a little bit today. So whenever you guys are ready, let's get it started. Teach me, please.
I'm going to preface, before we get right into what the Dawn of the Jedi is, like, I think it's kind of it's, at least to me, it's important to kind of learn about this part of Legends, because a lot of what is in, or not a lot, but certain parts of what's in canon, it came from this. Like, for instance, like Star Wars Rebels, Bendu, that's one character that comes from this part of Legends. Ashla and Bogan came from this part of Legends. And even probably like the ones. That's more of the theoretical side of this part of Legends, but I don't know if you want to. How much do you know about Dawn of the Jedi, Choco? Like, because I can start it up if you want, but.
No, I definitely will let you start. So I've the book by Tim LeBon, into the light, into the dark, for Dawn of the Jedi was my biggest piece. Some of the concepts there were just, it was so far in the past that certain things were wild, right? We're talking 10,000 years in the past, I want to say. And so this is
30 plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, that book. Yeah, you're absolutely right. This is back when they didn't even have proto sabers. You were just taking crystals and just hammering them into a regular ass sword, and it just worked. I don't know how it worked, but it just worked.
Wow.
So the Dawn of the Jedi. So the beginning of this, basically, it starts on a planet called Ando Prime. And on this planet, there's a forest religion called the Dai Bendu. And they discover this ancient pyramid on their planet, which they modeled the symbol that's on that pyramid, they modeled after the symbol they used for their religion. And we see that later on, even thousands of years later, that represents the Republic. So they came to call it the Tho Yor. Eventually, I think a little over 1,000 years later, the pyramid awoke, and it invited a select few within that religion to board it. They learned that it's a starship, so they boarded it and they head to Tython, which is in the galactic core. There's also 8 or 7 other pyramids that gather other force sensitives from other planets like Dathomir, Kashyyyk, just a bunch of other planets. They're all force sensitive. So they gather them on Tython, and there's a 9th pyramid, a bigger one, that's already been there. These pyramids disperse all over the planet. So they inhabited all different parts of Tython, and each one became like a temple, an area where they placed a temple, and each one has a different focus in the force. So they decided to name themselves the Jedi. Slightly different pronunciation, slightly different spelling, one more I. Their focus is mainly centered on balance in the force, which I thought was interesting, because the way it works is if any one person became leaning more toward either the light or the dark, storms started to occur on the planet, animals started to randomly attack, and that's how they knew that somebody was unbalanced. So if somebody was leaning toward more of the dark, that person would be sent to the planet Ashla and focus on the light. If someone became more leaning toward the light, they would be sent to the Bogan, and or the vice versa. I forgot where I left off.
No, that's
so,
right.
Yeah. So yeah, it became more. It's a religion that really had every individual focus on their balance within the Force and their viewpoint, which I thought was awesome. But then came the Rakata. So the Rakata attacked, and they went to war against the Rakata, and eventually they learned that the Tho Yor could be used as a weapon. One of the main characters sacrificed her life to activate the weapons within the Tho Yor. Tho Yor obliterated the Rakata, and that's when the Force Wars began, because that's where they split between what sides of the Force they should focus on. Because the dark side was used quite a bit in battling the Rakata, so was the light. So there's one side that thought, we need to focus on the dark side, because we need to, in order, if there's more invaders, we have to be ready. So the dark side is where it's at. And
well,
of course,
wait.
Yeah.
So what is the Tho Yor? Like, is that some kind of device? Is it a
So that's the cool part, at least to me, because they're mysterious even still. Like now, they've never been explored in Legends. They're just mysterious pyramidal starships. There's
so sort of like what we got in Rebels.
With what part?
The Twilight of the that's not the wrong one. The one where the season 2 finale. Vader and the Ahsoka. And all
with
that?
the pyramid that had
the
weapon, but that was a straight up Sith temple.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was created by a female Sith Lord who focused on super weapons.
Okay.
And fun fact, Sidious used her designs as inspiration for the Death Star later on. Yeah. No, the Tho Yor. I mean, there's been a lot of theories that have been crafted within the Legends community. They believe that they're connected to the Celestials, and the Celestials are the ones. So the father, the daughter, the son.
Okay.
The sons, the Mortis guys.
Yes.
So that's the one going theory that's out there, because they were perceived as the very first civilization that were the first students of the Force. At least, that again, everything that's theory. I hate using that word, but I have
to. It's always been one of the interesting things, though, is I love when any sci-fi franchise uses, like, there's an ancient thing that came before that we don't quite understand at this point in time.
Yeah.
So I apologize for going a little off topic here, but like the way that they, because the ones didn't exist until the Clone Wars arc, right? Which was in
that was a Yoda arc, right?
No, this was season 3 of the Clone Wars with the Mortis arc.
Oh, the Mortis arc. Okay, I'm thinking of those 4 beings that Yoda encountered.
The Wills.
The Wills.
Right.
Force priestesses.
But I just think it's funny because I think it's easy to forget that the ones were not always part of Star Wars. So there was stuff for a long time, and then the ones came out, and then we start trying to make these connections, but some of them were super cool, like Centerpoint Station and the Maw and all this stuff. It was just really cool.
So yeah, the Tho Yor, still a great mystery. I could still see them using that in a Dawn of the Jedi movie, maybe, because again, it's never been explored in Legends, so they could use it in canon. But that's not to say that I feel they have to. They can go any which direction they want in, the canon Dawn of the Jedi. I just think if they implement any of this part of the Legend story into it, still cool. Like either way, like I'm very intrigued as far as where they go with it. So after the Rakata attacked and there's a split, what happened was called the Force Wars. Now, as far as the lightsaber history goes, before the Rakata invaded one of their Force Hounds, crash landed on Tython. A Force Hound is an individual that the Rakata trained to basically help them fight and conquer planets. And this Force Hound is equipped with what's called a Force Saber. It looks like a lightsaber. And now when he crash landed, it was the first time that the Jedi, any of them, had seen anything like that. And the only way to turn it on was by using the dark side. So in the Force Wars, they tried to emulate that, and they created what's called the Proto Saber, the backpack thing. So that was their way to, try to copy that Rakatan technology.
That's where you look like Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah, that's the Ghostbuster thing right there.
And the Rakata, if I'm not mistaken, they were mentioned or in the Knights of the Old Republic game.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
yeah.
And like some failed like a failed civilization of some kind.
I mean, most ancient civilizations fail at some point, but like they were living their best life for a long time.
Yeah, they ruled the galaxy for 100,000 years or something like that.
Tatooine used to be an ocean world. Until the Rakatan showed up.
Yeah, it was an ocean world, and they were technologically advanced.
Yeah, and that's where the Star Forges came from. And we recently brought into canon with Andor of all Star Wars properties to bring them into canon.
Yeah, so I think that'd be interesting to explore. Like, obviously, later on down the line, after we're done entirely with the Skywalker era. Yeah, there's a whole lot of different areas they can go, like, story-wise. And I think the jumping off point for me, at least I think it will be, is the Acolyte.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping the Acolyte's going to introduce a lot of ancient concepts that we can then much like A New Hope mentioned the Clone Wars, and then we've explored that for like 1,000 seasons. Yeah, so I'm hoping that they mention like the Rakata and their domination, and we can explore that. I personally have conquered Rakata in my baked CD. It's delicious, but
that was a cheesy joke, bro. Good night, everyone.
One thing I do hope, though, is I want to see like maybe a conflict between the Zepho and the Rakata.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I want to see how the Zepho fit in this, because they were driven out of the galaxy somehow.
I mean, I swear to you that the big robot dinosaur that looked like it came from Horizon Zero Dawn.
Totally Zepho.
Yeah.
Absolutely Zepho. I was flipping out. I'm like, oh my God, they're doing it.
Yeah,
they're doing it.
The head shape and everything.
The head is shaped like a Zepho, and it fires a beam just like the Guardian dude.
Yep.
I was like, this is straight out of Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to mention, like, I kind of feel like the direction of season 2 of Ahsoka, like it's obviously because what is his name? Balin, yeah. He was seeking the beginning.
Yeah.
In Legends, I'm not saying that's what it is in canon. The beginning is, or would be, the first migration of the Tho Yor. Technically, like, granted, like, each planet kind of had their own little religion that's focused on the Force in some aspect, but it didn't really become more focused and centralized until the forming of the Jedi. So that would, a lot of people would, or fans would, consider that the actual beginning. But I kind of think, yeah, we're the reason why they're doing the Acolyte first and then season 2 of Ahsoka is they want to introduce more of the ancient concepts from Legends before we jump into what they're going to reveal in Ahsoka.
Also, I'm gonna put money down right now that Jodie Turner Smith is Night Sister.
Ooh.
And I mean, and just in general, I see them pointing a lot towards the Night Sisters and the Magics, and I could see that as partially being the dawn of learning what the Force is, because they don't. Yeah, like Mother Taliesin said, she's not a natural Force wielder, right?
Mhm.
They consume the Ichor from their planet, and basically it's finding things that have the strength with the Force and the dark side and consuming them, which I think might be an interesting starting place.
Yeah. I like that you mentioned the Night Sisters, because that's one part of canon that I think is way better than the Legends version.
Just random women on a planet.
Yeah, I'm like, but I like that.
Although they rode Rancor.
They did, yeah.
That was pretty dope.
Yeah, that's how they actually boarded the Tho Yor starships to Tython, and that's why there are Rancor on Tython. Yeah, so that's another fun fact, especially if you played the Old Republic game. Yeah, so I like what they're doing with the canon version of the Night Sisters. Like it's a lot more, at least to me, it's a lot more intriguing, being in a separate galaxy, and they're running from something on their own home planet. That's interesting. What do you think, Chris?
I think it all sucks, and I'm kidding. I dig it when they do incorporate legend stuff into the canon to just maybe for me make it make sense, so to speak.
Yeah.
And just expand, like a better term, expand that lore. I'm hoping that a lot of what you just explained to me is what is going to happen whenever this Dawn of the Jedi flick is coming out, because I think that just makes for spectacular, Star Wars stories. Different, very different, Star Wars stories, considering we're not going to have the technology and none of the familiar things are going to be there. And I'm always saying it's time for new traditions and new stories to tell. So I'm really, really hyped for whatever they do with this, and hopefully everything you just explained to me, like the
Tho Yor.
I don't know what I was about to say. Yoshi or whatever.
Yoshi.
Yeah, Yoshi. He's the crossover we didn't know we wanted. But yeah, I'm excited to see if they bring all this stuff, what you were just saying, into canon. So I hope this happens.
Yeah, I'm excited to see like what is currently in canon and how it would fit into whatever they're gonna make it. Like, one thing I totally forgot about, like in The Last Jedi, what is the name of the planet that Luke was on? Octo, yeah. So like that's one of, if I remember correctly, that's one of the original Jedi temples, or one of the first, or whatever, same thing. And there he discovers like a mirror of what's called the Prime Jedi. Like I would love to know what that is, like, or who, if that Prime Jedi means one or many.
One thing though, I want them to steer clear of, and I'm sorry if y'all like it. I hate the concept of gray Jedi. I hate it. So
oh my God! No, please, no.
So it was one of the things I didn't love about Dawn of the Jedi is it didn't. I mean, it could all be explained in a way that works. It just never was,
Right.
And I see it kind of leading people down the wrong path.
I can explain it.
Okay, no, that's yeah.
Because like, I mean, yeah, Grey Jedi, like at least the way it is being shared on social media, and it's a large misconception that is being shared everywhere. So a Grey Jedi is not a Jedi that can use both dark and light. That is not what a Grey Jedi is. A Grey Jedi is a Jedi that he's guided by the will of the Force specifically, even if that means butting heads with the Jedi Council. Qui-Gon Jinn, that's a gray Jedi.
So
yeah,
in canon that has specifically been referred to as a Maverick, Jedi. But no, I definitely see what you mean, because there is in the expanded universe there is. I'm trying to think of what comic it was, because that was referred to in a comic. It was a conversation between Plo Koon and his master Tavoka.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a big misconception when it comes to the Jedi Council of, like, you know what happens if you disagree with the Jedi Council? Nothing, really.
Yeah. So yeah, Gray Jedi is not like an official title. It's just a perception that Jedi have of other Jedi. Right? Yeah. It's not like they don't have their own Jedi. They don't have their own like tenets.
There's no code.
There's no code.
It feels like there is a
code.
I
saw it on the internet.
There's a lot of things that get wrapped up and then put into this package, and that's what people believe Grey Jedi are. And that package is wrong. Of like they're mixing video game mechanics of harnessing both the light side and the dark side, and then if you believe that the Jedi Council ruled with an absolute, iron fist or whatever, which is like Yoda always was like, "What do you think you should do?" Okay, try that. He was like, "I don't think you should train Anakin," and Obi-Wan's like, "Well, I'm gonna." He's like,
"All right,
okay." Well, I guess you will, but damn it. Anyways, the belief that you could wield both sides makes Anakin look like an absolute idiot. Right. That's my big thing.
There's a concept. I mean, there's more than one instances of a Force user in Legends specifically that it does teach you more or less like how to try, because it's not everybody's capable of doing that. Not even like the most experienced of Force users to try to wield both. Like Revan is one example. Like in the novel, he was able to wield both, which was described as probably one of the purest forms of the Force that you can wield, which is why the only reason why he was able to effectively attack the Emperor in the book. But he was betrayed, so that fight wasn't finished the way it should have been finished. And then the other was,
I mean, he could have sacrificed the outcast, but
but I think like even the religion that came from Revan, the Revanites kind of teach that, but it's not really something you could teach. It's more so something that you have to experience to know how to do it. So obviously no one in that organization could do that.
And then there was another group that tried, and they found manuscripts that helped them. They formed their own group. They wore armor. I can't remember their name.
The Knights, something Knights. I can't remember.
Yeah, but then it turned out that the manuscript was fake and written by a Sith Lord, and they all turned to the dark side.
Yep.
He's in the corner.
Gotcha, bitch.
That sounds like something a Sith would do.
I do hope we get more dark side exploration and just Sith in general, because there's a lot of meat there. That's one of the reasons I love the Darth Bane book and Plagueis. I mean, Vader's castle was designed by a Sith architect. He's like, I'm just gonna make evil buildings.
Moment. I think it's Soul's working on a moment story. Like we're gonna get a dedicated moment story. I think this year, and
awesome.
I am so happy about that, because this dude is so insane, and he's so messed up. I'm like, I need to know more about this crazy individual who's a pretty fine architect. Yeah. I need to know more. I need to know more about this.
Especially like in the Vader comic, we see you kind of more or less see like just like a brief glimpse into Momin's journey and how he learned to become this psychotic architect, and he visits these very interesting locations. And I remember asking Charles Soule on social media, like, "Hey, I forgot what picture I posted, but it looked like a giant, like he was walking into like a giant volcanic mouth." And I was like, "Are we gonna find out what this is?" And I think he sent like an emoji of him like a smirking emoji.
Yep.
I was
sounds about right.
That's not a no.
Yeah. I remember I sent him something about because like anytime like any like amazing comic comes out that like he does or Daniel Jose Older, I will message them like, you know, right at I'm like, yo, this is dope. What does this mean? Like, what's about to happen? And you know, I remember the High Republic book for Porter Engle.
The Blade.
Yes. I was like, okay, his sister, and I just went to like, his sister's name is Barrage.
Barrage Val.
I'm like, does this have is she about to go on a pilgrimage of some kind? He's like, yeah, just keep reading. Just keep reading. I'm like,
I've always wondered too, like how many other Jedi took the Barrage Val and we never saw them.
And how many of them could still be out there, you know?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Because Kirok in Fallout, he was a beast.
Yeah. He's literally Sagat. With a lightsaber.
I didn't even think about that, but yeah.
Tiger. Tiger uppercut.
I, you know, just like the Tales of the Jedi. Give me some of those Barrage Val, you know, stories, starting with Barrage. You know, I know we got it in, you know, in the comic and whatnot, like her going off on her thing, but I want to see that journey for her. And did she ever come back, you know, from that? And where is she now? And does she know what's going on with Porter? Those books are so depressing.
Hey. Porter's still out there. He's on a farm upstate.
That's what it is.
He's chasing rabbits. All right. No.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Anytime I see Jason Momoa as Aquaman, that's my imagination of Porter Engle. Like that fits his vibe.
Well, everyone, thanks for joining us for our very first episode of Brolocron. We will be back next month with new topics. More members of the crew are going to be involved, and it's going to be fantastic. Choco, let everyone know where they can find you, bro.
Yeah, I'm Darth Choco on TikTok, Darth Choco on YouTube, Darth Choco 7 on Twitter, where I can get a little mean sometimes, so I apologize. But that's what Twitter's for. Anyways, but yeah, come talk Star Wars with me. I love the people, love the community, love the conversation. So yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Tommy, where can they find you, bro?
You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. I know, dying social medias, but I'm still there. OG Revenite, and I'm also on TikTok, but I just post whatever I want on TikTok. OG Revenite. It's not necessarily Star Wars themed, but you can find me there.
Yeah. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at CRyons75, CRYONS 75. You can also find me at Broaxiom on all over our social media. On TikTok, you can find me at just Chris Ryons. It's a super exciting handle I have for my but yeah, you can find me all over with that, of course, here on YouTube as well. And I want to thank you guys, everyone out there, for watching our very first episode and supporting the crew. It means a lot to us, and thank you, and may the Force be with you.